Hi everybody, I'm T.A. Barron. Welcome back to my writing room. And I am thrilled now to read to you the next chapter of Tree Girl, a book I wrote right here at this very desk. Here we go. Chapter 9. Anna jumped to her feet. She raced over to the trunk where the cub had disappeared. Wind gusted through the surrounding trees, making them shudder and spray leaves and cones across the ground. A gorseberry bush rattled like a pod of seeds in a storm. Sash! She beat her fists against the trunk's lightning-charred wood. Are you hurt? No answer. Sash, can you hear me? Still no answer. Anna turned to the dark forest beyond the glade. Were ghouls out there, just hidden from sight? Had they done this to Sash? She wiped her brow with her forearm and turned back to the tree. Setting her ear against a knothole in the trunk, she listened. Eagle paced to and fro on her shoulder. Then, from inside the tree, she heard a muffled groan. Sash! She shouted straight into the knothole. Talk to me! Some dance step, came the weak reply. I guess I need more practice. Forget that, you crazy bear. Can you climb out? No, can't climb. He groaned as if he hurt terribly. These walls, too slippery. Ugh, and my leg. She braced her feet in the tangle of roots and pushed hard against the trunk. Her shoulder flattened and her legs shook with strain. She knew she couldn't push over such a big tree, but mayhaps she could tilt it some, enough that he could crawl out. With all her strength she heaved, but the tree just wouldn't budge. Oh, moaned the muffled voice. It hurts, Anna. Hurts bad. What, your leg? No, my belly. I'm hungrier by the second. Can't you at least throw me some berries? She knew he was trying to make her laugh, but she could also hear the raw pain in his voice. Forget about your belly for once. She glared at the knothole. I'll find some way to get you out, I promise. She licked her dry lips. But how? She couldn't climb up the trunk herself. Besides, even if she could, what good would it do? And what about the ghouls? Casting her eyes around the glade, she searched for something, anything she could use. No luck. All she saw were leaves, branches, and shafts of fern. Then she spotted a thin purple vine curled around the limb of a sapling. An idea burst into her mind like a dolphin leaping into the air. Maybe if she could just drop down a vine, one long enough to reach, he might be able to climb out. Where, though, to find a vine that big and sturdy? She slapped her forehead. The vines the master used for his nets. From inside the trunk, her friend groaned again, louder this time. I'll be back, Sash, she called, very soon. She set down Eagle on the roots. Stay here now. Keep him company. She dashed back to the cottage, crashing through the bramble bushes that lined the shore. Breathing hard, she scanned the remains of the old nets that lay on the beach. But they were just tangled bits of vines. She needed one as long as a rope. Aye, like the ones master... She stiffened, like the ones he gathered from the forest. She knew from what he'd said that he'd fetched them from somewhere up the stream where Sash had caught that perch. How far upstream he went, she didn't know, just that he followed the rill into the woods. Deep into the woods. She sucked in her breath. Ghouls or no ghouls, she would go. Anna started running down the shore to the deep-rutted spot where the stream emptied into the sea. At the edge of a bank, she turned into the forest. She ran beside the stream, her feet slapping on the mud, even as sharp branches tore at her arms and legs. The forest grew steadily darker and denser Trees crowded closer to the bank, aye, with roots that gouged the ground like claws. Branches dripped with spray, moss hung everywhere, wet and thick, so thick that sometimes she had to wade into the stream itself to get by. And crab claws, it was cold. Icy water slapped her legs and tried to knock her down. Once her foot slipped on an underwater rock and she almost fell into the dark, dripping arms of the trees. A sound! She stopped to listen as water swirled around her feet. High and wailing it came, thinner than a spider's thread. The sound grew louder, nearer, rising with the wind. Then more sounds joined in, shrieks, howls, moans. Did all that come from the wind in the trees, or from something else? Anna shuddered and kept walking up the stream. Her toes felt numb from the cold, but step by step she pushed deeper into the forest. At last she reached a bend where the bank lifted into a sheer wall of rock. Tiny rills poured down the cliff and splattered into the stream. Vines, long, twisted vines, grew there by the dozens, hanging like loose green hairs. This was what she'd been looking for. She hesitated. What if ghouls tried to stop her? Had they ever attacked the master when he had come here for vines? She wished now that she'd thought to bring along his axe. Cautiously, she waded over to the base of the cliff. Then she reached for one of the longer vines, wrapped around her wrist, and tugged. It held fast, like an oyster to its rock. "Come on now," she commanded. "I need you. Sash needs you." She dug her feet into the stony stream bottom, leaned back and tugged again. All at once, the vine pulled loose. She fell back in the stream with a splash. Water gushed from her leggings as she stood. She gathered up the vine, coiled it into loops, and turned to go. Just then, a new wind, fiercer than before, swept through the forest. Branches creaked and groaned, and trees swayed all around. A hefty branch broke off and crashed in the water right beside her. Suddenly, she glimpsed a shape, not quite a face, as twisted as a knot of roots, watching her from behind an oak. Anna gasped. The face peered at her with ghoulish, night-dark eyes. Then what looked like a ragged, toothy mouth started to open. She turned and ran, faster than she'd ever run before, back down the stream, to the beach, and finally to the glade. When at last she reached the trunk, she staggered over, panting hoarsely. Eagle chirped a loud welcome. She dropped the vine and put her mouth to the knothole. "Whew! I'm back, Sash." A low moan came from inside the trunk. She almost told him what she'd seen, then stopped herself. That could wait. Anna grabbed the vine and tied a stone to one end. Planting her feet, she started to hurl it up the rim. Suddenly, she froze. The vine wasn't big enough. Long as it was, it wouldn't reach all the way down the trunk to Sash. She spun to face the lichen-covered boulder where they had sat only moments before. That just might do it. Hastily, she scaled the boulder. She tied the free end of the vine around her waist. Then she hefted the weighted end in her hand, judging her aim. At last, she threw the vine at the top of the trunk. It missed, glancing off the side with a spray of wood chips. She gathered up the vine and threw again. This time, the stone at the end struck the rim and knocked off some yellow berries. But the vine's weight pulled it back down. With a slap, it hit the ground. Rotting ravens! She stamped her foot on the boulder. Taking the vine once more, she drew a deep breath, reared back, and threw. She watched as it flew upward, hit the rim, and like a slithering snake, plunged down the hole. She'd done it! "Grab hold," she shouted, "and climb!" Nothing happened. She shook the bottom of the vine. "Grab it!" Seconds passed, and more seconds. All at once, the vine jerked, then went taut. then jerked again and again. He was climbing. Anna grabbed hold and pulled down with her own weight. Don't break, Vine. Please don't break. Finally, she spotted a slight movement at the rim. Sash! Something emerged from the hollow trunk and grabbed the trunk. But to Anna's shock, it wasn't his paw or anyone's paw. It was a hand. More to come in chapter 10.